was setting. A last crimson glory filled the land and lay like a crown of blood on the snow-sprinkled peaks. The three men who watched the death of the day breathed deep the fragrance of the early wind which stole up out of the distant forests, and then turned to a task more material. One of the men was cooking venison over a small fire, and this man, touching a finger to the smoking viand, tasted with the air of a connoisseur.
All ready! Cole, Gorna, let us eat!
The speaker was young, little more than a boy. A tall, slim-waisted, broad-shouldered lad who moved with the easy grace of a leopard. Of his companions, one was an older man, a powerful, massively built hairy man with an aggressive face. The other was a counterpart of the speaker, except for the fact that he was slightly larger, taller, a thought deeper of chest and broader of shoulder. He gave the impression, even more than the first youth, of dynamic speed concealed in long, smooth muscles.
Good,
Said he.
I am hungry.
When were you ever otherwise?
Jeered the first speaker.
When I am fighting.
Cool answered seriously. The other shot a quick glance at his friend as to fathom his inmost mind. He was not always sure of his friend.
And then you are blood-hungry.
Broke in the older man.
Amra, have done with your bantering and cut us food.
Night began to fall. The stars blinked out. Over the shadowy hill country swept the dusk wind. Far off, a tiger roared suddenly. Gorna made an instinctive motion toward the flint-pointed spear which lay beside him. Kull turned his head, and a queer light flickered in his cold gray eyes.
The Stripe brothers hunt tonight.
Said he.
They worship the rising moon.
Amra indicated the east, where a red radiance was becoming evident.
Why?
Asked Kull.
The moon discovers them to their prey and their enemies. Once, many hundreds of years ago,
Said Gorna.
a king tiger, pursued by hunters, called on the woman in the moon, and she flung him down a vine, whereby he climbed to safety and abode for many years in the moon. Since then, all the striped people worship the moon.
I don't believe it.
Said Kull bluntly.
Why should the Striped people worship the moon for aiding one of their race who died so long ago? Many a tiger has scrambled up Death Cliff and escaped the hunters. But they do not worship that cliff. How should they know what took place so long ago?
Gorna's brow clouded.
It little becomes you, Kull, to jeer at your elders or to mock the legends of your adopted people. This tale must be true because it has been handed down from generation unto generation longer than men remember. What always was must always be.
I don't believe it.
Said Kull.
These mountains always were. But someday, they will crumble and vanish. Someday the sea will flow over these hills.
Grr, enough of this blasphemy!
Cried Gorna, with a passion that was almost anger.
Kull! We are close friends, and I bear with you because of your youth. But one thing you must learn, respect for tradition. You mock at the customs and ways of our people. You whom that people rescued from the wilderness and gave a home and a tribe.
I was a hairless ape, roaming in the woods.
Admitted Kull frankly and without shame.
I could not speak the language of men, and my only friends were the tigers and the wolves. I know not who my people were, or what blood am I.
That matters not.
Broke in Gorna.
For all you have the aspect of one of that outlaw tribe who lived in Tiger Valley and who perished in the Great Flood. It matters little. You have proven yourself a valiant warrior and a mighty hunter.
Where will you find a youth To equal him in throwing the spear or in wrestling.
Broke in Amra, his eyes alight.
Very true,
Said Gorna.
he is a credit to the Sea Mountain tribe. But for all that he must control his mouth and learn to reverence the holy things of the past and of the present.
I mock not.
Said Cool without malice.
But many things the priests say I know to be lies. For I have run with the tigers, and I know wild beasts better than the priests. Animals are neither gods nor fiends, but men in their way, without the lust and greed of man.
More blasphemy!
Cried Gorna angrily. Man is Valka's mightiest creation. Amra broke in to change the subject.
I heard the coast drums beating early in the morning. There is war on the sea. Valusia fights the Lemurian pirates.
Evil luck to both!
Grunted Gorna. Cool's eyes flickered again.
Valusia, land of enchantment. Someday, I will see the great city of wonder.
Oh, evil the day that you do! For you will be loaded with chains, with the doom of torture and death hanging over you. No man of our race sees the great city save as a slave.
Evil luck attender.
Muttered Amra,
Black luck and a red doom
shaking his fist toward the east.
for each drop of spilt Atlantean blood. For each slave toiling in their cursed galleys. May a black blight rest on Valusia and all the 7 empires.
Amra, fired, leapt lithely to his feet and repeated part of the curse.
Black blight rest Valusia.
Cool cut himself another slice of cooked meat.
I have fought the Valusians, and they were bravely arrayed, but not hard to kill. Nor were they evil featured.
You fought the feeble guard of her northern coast, or the crew of stranded merchant ships. Wait until you have faced the charge of the Black Squadrons, or the Great Army, as have I. Then there is blood to drink. With Gandaro of the Spear, I harried the Volusian coast when I was younger than you, Cole. We carried the torch and the sword deep into the Empire. 500 men we were, of all the coast tribes of Atlantis. 4 of us returned, outside the village of Hawks, which we burned and sacked. The van of the Black Squadron smote us. There the spears drank, and the swords were eased of thirst. We slew, and they slew. But when the thunder of battle was stilled, 4 of us escaped from the field, and all of us sore wounded.
Ascalante tells me
Pursued Kull.
that the walls about the Crystal City are 10 times the height of a tall man, that the gleam of gold and silver would dazzle the eyes, and the women who throng the streets, or lean from their windows, are robed in strange, smooth robes that rustle and sheen.
Ascalante should know,
Grimly said Gorna.
since he was slave among them so long that he forgot his good Atlantean name and must forsooth abide by the Valusian name they gave him.
But he escaped.
Commented Amra.
Aye, but for every slave that escapes the clutches of the 7 empires, 7 are rotting in dungeons and dying each day. For it was not meant for an Atlantean to bide as a slave.
We have been enemies to the 7 empires since the dawn of time.
Mused Amra.
And will be until the world crashes. For Atlantis, thank Valka, is the foe of all men.
Amra rose, taking his spear and prepared to stand watch. The other 2 lay down on the sward and dropped to sleep. Of what did Gorna dream? Battle, perhaps. Or the thunder of buffalo. Or a girl of the caves. Kull. Through the mists of his sleep echoed faintly and far away the golden melody of the trumpets. Clouds of radiant glory floated over him. Then a mighty vista opened before his dream self. A great concourse of people stretched away into the distance, and a thunderous roar in a strange language went up from them. There was a minor note of steel clashing, and great shadowy armies reigned to the right and the left. The mist faded, and a face stood out boldly. A face above which hovered a regal crown, a hawk-like face, dispassionate, immobile, with eyes like the gray of the cold sea. Now the people thundered again. Hail the king! Hail the king! Cull the king! Kull awoke with a start. The moon glimmered on the distant mountain. The wind sighed through the tall grass. Gorna slept beside him, and Amra stood, a naked bronze statue against the stars. Kull's eyes wandered to his scanty garment, a leopard's hide twisted about his pantherish loins. A naked barbarian, Kull's cold eyes glimmered. Kull the king. Again he slept. They arose in the morning and set out for the caves of the tribe. The sun was not yet high when the broad blue river met their gaze, and the caverns of the tribe rose to view.
Look!
Amra cried out sharply.
They burned someone!
A heavy stake stood before the caves. Thereon was a young girl bound. The people who stood about, hard-eyed, showed no sign of pity.
That is Allah.
Said Gorna, his face setting into unbending lines.
She married the Lemurian pirate, the Wanton.
Aye,
Broke in a stony-eyed old woman.
my own daughter. Thus she brought shame on Atlantis. My daughter no longer. Her mate died, and she washed ashore when their ship was broken by the craft of Atlantis.
Kull eyed the girl compassionately. He couldn't understand. Why did these people, her own kin and blood, frown on her so, merely because she chose an enemy of her race? In all the eyes that were centered on her, Kull saw only one trace of sympathy. Amra's strange blue eyes were sad and compassionate. What Kull's own immobile face mirrored there is no knowing. But the eyes of the doomed girl rested on his. There was no fear in her fine eyes, but a deep and vibrant appeal. Kull's gaze wandered to the piled kindling at her feet. Soon the priest, who now chanted a curse beside her, would stoop and light these with the torch, which he now held in his left hand. Kull saw that she was bound to the stake with a heavy wooden chain, a peculiar thing which was typically Atlantean in its manufacture. He could not sever that chain. Even if he reached her through the throng that barred his way, her eyes implored him. He glanced at the ring of kindling, touched the long flint dagger at his girdle. She understood, nodded, relief flooding her eyes. Kull struck as suddenly and unexpectedly as a cobra. He snatched the dagger from his girdle and threw it. Fairly under the heart it struck, killing her instantly. While the people stood spellbound, Kull wheeled, bounded away, and ran up the sheer side of the cliff for 20 feet, like a cat. The people stood struck dumb. Then a man whipped a bow and arrow and sighted along the smooth shaft. Kull was heaving himself over the lip of the cliff. The bowman's eyes narrowed. Am-Ra, as if by accident, lurched headlong into him, and the arrow sang wide and aside. Then Kul was gone. He heard them screaming on his track. His own tribesmen, fired with the bloodlust, wild to run him down and slay him for violating their strange and bloody code of morals. But no man in Atlantis, and that means no man in the world, could foot it with Kull of the Sea Mountain tribe.
Atlantis made my name a curse when I went to seek fame, fortune among the cities of the world. Angels, foes of the seven empires, weight of foes of the allies of the empires, as you should know.
Exile of Atlantis by Robert E. Howard. This has been a presentation of the Thurian Archives. Thus begins the Chronicles of Kull.